leaving.
Do we really need that? Sorry. Thought it would add
You
to
were
the
waiting
show.
on that all for a while.
Listen, Coach says flush day. I'm not going to play toilet flush sound effect. Of course I am. All day, every day. Matt Schneidman joins us now. Our Packer Insider segment's brought to you by Rogers Behavioral Health, Hildebrand Law, The Great Taste of Miller Lite, and Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. There is a difference. Matt, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. So we got a lot to dig into here, and I know the coaches quickly move on to the next game, but I think as fans and us in the media want to know how certain things happened. Let's first start with Christian Watson, torn ACL, devastating injury. It's typically a 9 to 12 month recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this obviously threatens the start of next season for him and puts that at what, October? The season starts in September. So he could miss the first half of next season, maybe more. You never know how these things work. It's a brutal injury for him because he's going into a contract year. So you feel for the guy. And he had gotten all his soft tissue injuries, right, that had ailed him in his first couple seasons. The only time he missed this season was because of a couple of freak incidents where guys fell on him awkwardly in the Vikings game in week 4 when he got his ankle caught under a defender on that interception. And then against the Saints after a 14-yard run when a defender fell on his knee out of bounds. And
yeah,
I see people saying, "Oh, why'd you play him?" This was a right knee injury. He injured his left knee a couple weeks ago, and LaFleur said yesterday, without specifying what injury it was, that his knee wasn't even what was bothering him going into this game. So,
interesting.
It's just an unfortunate circumstance.
But he was not a participant in practice until Friday, correct?
Yeah.
In which he was limited, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And LaFleur said that a big part of him being up and active for the game was Dobbs being down with illness, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I was told by Heller that they had to have him in there because they can't run half their offense without 5 healthy wide receivers. I expressed skepticism that could possibly be the case, that there had to be a ton of plays that would require 2 or 3 wide receivers at best. But Heller was pretty adamant. I need your thoughts on that as to how vital is it to have 5 guys healthy and up at wide receiver?
Yeah, I think Matt LaFleur was asked that yesterday, and he basically said we weighed everything. And Christian came to the team on Friday morning and said, if I practice today, I want to be active. And obviously, a lot of players would push to play through injury, and it's up to the staff.
Right.
It's interesting how for every injury before, the discussion is, oh, the Packers training staff is so conservative. And now just because something bad happens, albeit a terrible injury, you feel for the guy. It's like, oh, they weren't conservative enough. Well, pick one or the other. The Packers training staff wouldn't put Christian Watson out there, even if Romeo Doubs was inactive, if they thought it was endangering his health. So right. It's an unfortunate circumstance. Hindsight is 20/20, obviously. If Romeo Doubs is added to the injury report with that illness on Saturday morning, do they elevate a wide receiver? Maybe. Instead, he was added to the injury report after the deadline to elevate guys, so they didn't add a receiver. Christian Watson was going to be limited anyway, LaFleur said, so it wasn't like they had these grand plans for him. It's a non-contact knee injury. It's a freak thing. It's just what it is.
Safe to say, though, had Dobbs woken up Sunday morning feeling great and ready to go, Watson would have been down. That's a fair assumption, right?
Yeah, I mean, Saturday morning.
Okay.
Saturday
morning.
Yeah,
yes.
Saturday and Sunday morning, I guess. Sunday morning more
All
notably,
right.
but yeah.
All right. Well, good luck to the young man in his recovery, and I hope that he can bounce back from it and get a deal because, like you said, he was in a contract. He's coming into a contract year, and he'll be scheduled to be an unrestricted free agent in 2026. Let's move on to the final call defensively. LaFleur also said yesterday in his presser that can't happen. Got to have at least a robber in the middle or somebody who is in the low middle area. Why were they in that? Hafley will talk Thursday, right? And he'll give a more detailed explanation, I assume.
I would assume so. Yep.
What is your thought? Like, why would they suddenly revert to something so timid as a defense, given how well they were playing against Caleb Williams all game?
Well, I'm not sure. I understand that you want to, play back to some degree because you don't want them to just hit one over the top. Even if they hadn't done that before yet in the game, you want to prevent against that. I understand you want to play your leverage so that they can't get out of bounds. So you want to leave the middle of the field relatively open. LaFleur just said the communication was off somewhere. Now, I don't know exactly where that was. I don't know if that was the call or Jeff Hafley called something different. And, whoever was wearing the green dot, Eric Wilson at the time, I'm assuming he was on the field. I didn't watch the play back. Didn't get the call properly in. But yeah, ideally, you'd have a guy closer to the line to gain so that when DJ Moore catches the slant against Carrington Valentine, there's a guy right there to tackle him before the line of gain. It was third and whatever. Or no, it wasn't. Yeah, I forgot what the down and distance was. But
it
bottom
was
line is
11 after
third and 11. And he caught it for 19 yards or whatever. But it was one of several things the Packers botched in the final couple minutes there. And maybe they're tighter in a game that matters more, but still inexcusable.
Yeah.
We've lived in the past enough. Let's move on to the future, right? And you can't live in the past. It's going to hurt us. Matt, is Jalen Hurts playing against the Packers?
I don't know. I mean, he's in the concussion protocol. Nick Sirianni said yesterday, and a concussion is not something that you can push through. It's not like a hip injury or a hamstring where, okay, if he's 75%, he can go. Like, it's a very black and white. Are you cleared from the protocol to play? Or are you not cleared from the protocol to play? And as we've seen with guys like Romeo Doubs, you can still practice and not be cleared. Guys like Evan Williams, I believe it was back at practice the next practice. Devontae Wyatt did not miss any games. Zane Anderson just missed a game in protocol, and he's still in protocol. It's not the same for anybody. So I have no idea if he's going to play. We will see as the week progresses, but that's certainly the biggest injury to watch going into this one.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Maybe you don't know this. Do you know what the exact concussion protocol is for the NFL? What the steps are?
Yeah, it's in a story somewhere. I don't have it off the top of my head, but
yeah, I know. I threw you one there. There is a process that needs to happen, and it's interesting because you look at it. Jalen Hurts, I thought would have practiced at least and been out of this, and then when it popped up that he's still in concussion protocol, to me as a former player, and that raises a red flag as far as okay, because you think you'd want this wrapped up and know that you're good to be cleared before the playoff week starts, if you could.
Sure, and again, he can be cleared on Saturday morning. It could be something. Correct. He doesn't need the practice before a playoff game. It's a pretty detailed protocol. I'm reading it on NFL.com right now.
I just found a chart from the NFLPA.
Yeah, I mean, you could like we know you can practice while still in the protocol. Part of the return to play protocol is still practicing, so it isn't just like a snap of the fingers and he's out of it thing.
Yeah, right. There's a whole. I mean, it's a long list of things that you got to check every box. You got I've had a couple of them, and it's like.
But he's a quarterback and a star in this league, so I'd be shocked if he wasn't cleared. Because I saw Joe
But I don't think that has anything to do with him being cleared. It's a third party. It's not the Eagles clearing him.
Okay. I know that is what they say, but I saw Joe Burrow get his head smashed into the ground, goes into the blue tent of medical miracles, and comes right back out into the game in week 18, a game they needed. And I'm like, oh, okay. So he's fine. He's fine after that hit. Yep, he's fine.
And he did get drilled.
He got crushed.
He got crushed is right.
But I know it's supposed to be independent. I just am expecting him to play. So that said, can you explain what you think, Matt, about the QBR rating that ESPN has and how Jordan Love came out looking so good on their QBR, even though his otherwise numbers this year have been okay. He was fourth in season-long QBR. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I don't know exactly what goes into that number. I didn't see that, but
yeah, it's a proprietary number that they say they won't release exactly what's in it.
They won't release.
ESPN will not tell people what they use to calculate it. But that's got people talking this morning that he was 4th in season-long QB.
A lot like the Bush baked beans recipe. You can't get it out. They won't give it away.
Can't get it out.
Can't get it out.
The formula for Coca-Cola.
Yep.
So what kind of year do you think, Matt, Jordan Love has had?
Inconsistent, I think.
Okay.
Obviously, the first half of the season was littered with a couple injuries. We didn't really see him at full strength until that Bears game in week 11, you could say. Then those next couple weeks, Matt LaFleur thought he was playing the best football of his, albeit very brief, career, not being asked to do the same things that he was last year because the Packers were a run-first team, but he was managing the game well, and I don't say that with a negative connotation. I say that with he was pushing the ball when necessary, he was protecting the ball, being a little bit more conservative, but playing good, efficient football for the Packers to win games, and these last 2 games have not been good enough. He's been inaccurate, those are his words, and the passing game has kind of stuttered. So I would say it's been an inconsistent year for multiple reasons for Jordan Love.
Yeah. The old and busted narrative is that, oh, God, the Packers aren't good at stopping the run, and here comes Saquon Barkley. Wrong this year. They're top 5 in run defense.
Yeah.
That said, what do they have to worry about the most with Barkley?
Everything. That was Matt LaFleur's words yesterday when he was asked about, what does Saquon Barkley do well, basically. And look, they don't have to completely shut him down. They just have to prevent him from not taking over the game. If he goes for, 22 carries for 98 yards, I think that's perfectly fine. Like, you just can't have him break any long ones or do what he did in week 1, untouched into the end zone from 11 yards out for a touchdown, or catch a wheel route out of the backfield for a touchdown. Like, you got to contain this guy. And contain is obviously a subjective word, whatever you want that to mean, it can mean. But this Eagles team has superstars everywhere. It's going to be extremely hard to beat this team. The Packers have to, I would say, play a near perfect game.
Yeah. Healthy A.J. Brown. I also want to, if you had to say, who do you want to limit more, A.J. Brown or Barkley? What would be your choice
Barkley.
By far, okay.
Yeah.
And then everything else can fall in line after that.
Packers might have to score 35 to win this game. I trust the run defense against Saquon Barkley more than I do that secondary against those 2 receivers.
All right. There's a whole bunch of next year questions that are bubbling up, and I'm suppressing them right now, Matt. But we can talk about next year when next year's upon us.
Let's get one next year question in.
You want one next year question? I feel
just give me one.
Bad juju.
Not because we're looking ahead to the offseason, but let me just get a taste.
Okay. Will they make a run for T. Higgins?
No, I don't think so. It's going to be an offseason filled with people saying Max Crosby and Myles Garrett and T. Higgins, and then I'm assuming it'll just be, okay, they draft a receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round and draft a corner in the 1st, probably, and that's what it's going to be because that's how this team does things.
T will be.
They do have some cap space, though.
Okay, they do. They got money to play with. T will be a walk out the door free agent, correct? Unless they franchise tag him.
Yeah, I don't think he's leaving the Bengals.
No, I know, but I'm saying, but he's not under contract. Crosby and Garrett are under contract. You would have to trade for those guys.
I believe those are
if I'm not mistaken, but I'd have to check.
So
put those 3 guys, in a box and say, if you trust Goody not to give up the farm, money or trade wise, who do you want the most? Well, Matt's looking that up. Butchie.
Well, they would all require the farm. So none of them. I mean,
none of them. Okay. None of those guys are worth going to get, in your opinion.
Oh, that's not what I said. I said, you said if you trust Goody not to give up the farm, he would have to give up the farm in money or picks for any of those 3 guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but I would take 2 of the. I would take defensive side.
If you were asking me which player would I want the most, if I'm the Packers general manager, regardless of what it took, I'm taking I'm taking my Max Crosby.
I would go for Max because the Raiders are the dumbest, so you have the best chance of fleecing them. Although the Browns, the
Browns
dumb.
are smart.
No, they're not smart. The Browns are also dumb, but Myles Garrett, I think, has a perceptionally higher value than Crosby. Perceptionally, Matt. Maybe they're equal players. I still think Garrett's a click above Crosby. One click. Not a lot. Higgins could be a great WR1, but I'm cautious about WR2s who get elevated to that spot and then never pan out. There's too many examples of it through the years.
Yeah, T. Higgins is a wide receiver 1. I don't think there should be concern about that. He's just behind arguably the best receiver in the league. That's the only reason he's a wide receiver 2.
I tend to agree. But until we see it, we're not like, all I'm saying is I've lived through a lot of WR2 guys. You're like, let's make him the guy. And then he's not the guy. So I would.
Devontae Adams would be a different story.
Yeah, he would be. Okay. So my pecking order would be Max Crosby, because you could probably fleece the Raiders the most. Garrett 2, but he would cost so much it would hurt your brain. And then Higgins 3, but I'm more cool on that because this wide receiver draft class is really good. Quarterbacks not so good. Wideouts, yes.
This is a perfect discussion that will never come to fruition that we can use to pass a couple minutes on the radio in early January.
You made me do a next year thing. I wanted not to do it. You made me, Matt.
I didn't know the next year thing was going to be a fantasy, Steve.
I'm just thinking about what's on my mind for next year. That's all. Next year is not going to come on Sunday night. That's what I'm going to put in my mind. That's what I'm going to manifest.
Manifest
another
it,
week
yeah.
of getting ready.
I disagree, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. As always, Matt, a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk soon.
All right.